Hi everybody. Now that open source has been released, we've heard several people say, "Oh, I don't really know how to program, but I'd like to try compiling the code," or "I'd like to contribute, but I don't really know how." Now, when I was learning to program, I learned very quickly that the easiest way to try to get into something is to just do it and jump in there. So we're going to jump right in with a video tutorial on how to compile CyanWorlds.com engine on Windows XP with Visual Studio 2008. And now for those of you who are completely new to the world of programming, compiling is a very essential step in development. Basically what you're doing is taking the source code that a programmer wrote and translating it into a form that the machine can run natively. So your computer can't understand the source code that a programmer writes, but when you compile it, the machine can then run that code. So let's get right into it, shall we? So let's open up the wiki page. It does a good job of listing the things you need to get started. I want you to go ahead and install the dependencies, which are Git and CMake, the PhysX 2.6.4 SDK. Make sure you get that old version. The newer versions don't work quite yet. We'll get those newer ones working sometime if we don't just rip it out entirely, but that's a different subject. You want to grab the OpenAL SDK 1.1 and the June 2010 SDK. And if you don't already have a version of Visual Studio, make sure you grab Visual Studio 2008 Service Pack 1. You want to make sure you have Service Pack 1, otherwise you get some weird errors that none of us really know how to fix. If you don't have it, you can grab the Express Edition for free, or if you're a student, Microsoft has the DreamSpark program you can use to get the full version for free as well. If you've got the full version already, great. That'll work just fine. So go ahead and download and install that stuff. You can pause me and shut me up in the meantime, and when you're done, come back and we'll continue on. Alrighty, now I'm going to assume you've got everything installed. If not, you really shouldn't be continuing. Anyway, you want to grab the CWE Development Libraries bundle. This is pretty important. We went ahead and made a little bundle for you of some of the things you're going to need that we can legally redistribute. So go ahead and download that. And we want to see, I've got it right here in my downloads folder. So you want to open that up. And what we really want to do is just put that in the root of the C drive. So we go into the root of the C drive and just drag and drop. And it's going to take a minute to copy it over. There we go. Now let's see. Now you want to open up the GitHub page so you can get the URL of the repository. Now, based on what you're doing, you're going to have a different URL, but I'm going to assume you're just interested in building the code. If you're going to contribute, I think you know what to do. You're going to want to press this copy button. So now let's go into the C drive here. I'm assuming you've already installed Git, so when we right click, we're going to get this nice little context menu with some Git stuff. I want you to go to Git Bash. Now, yes, this is an ugly, scary command line window. It's really not that scary. What you want to do is type in git, G-I-T, space, clone, C-O-L-O-N-E, and right click up here actually, and paste in that URL that you got from the GitHub page. And there you see it's in the window. Press enter, and now it's going to clone you a copy of the source code into a folder called Plasma. And this is nice because it shows you how far along it is, and the repository is kind of big, so it's going to take a few minutes, and as you can see, my internet is not the fastest thing around. So it's going to take me a few minutes. If you don't mind, I'm going to adjourn here for a moment. Well, not really adjourn, but we're going to take a brief pause while this downloads. Don't want to waste anyone's time. And we'll be back when it gets to 100%. Alright, we're back, and as you can see, we've got to 100% on receiving the objects, and now we resolve the deltas. It's just doing some of the change stuff that Git does, and we're through. So you can safely close this ugly command prompt now, and you can breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, I'm assuming you're done breathing a sigh of relief. Okay, so now we want to minimize all this junk we've accumulated. We don't need that anymore. We want to open CMake. This is where the fun stuff begins. Now make sure you've got advanced and grouped checked here. That's pretty important. Otherwise you just get a bunch of crap that's just it'll be really confusing otherwise. Now let's set this stuff up here. Where is the source code? We need to tell CMake where the source code is for the project we want to build. So we click on Browse Source and we get this lovely dialog. We want to collapse program files, and it's going to be under Plasma. Hit OK there. Now, where to build the binaries? There's a number of places you could tell it to do, but the best way to do it is to click on Plasma, hit Make New Folder, and make a folder without hitting Enter, obviously. That's called Build in all lowercase. And OK on that, and we're going to build in C:/plasma build. Now we want to hit Configure. Make sure that Visual Studio 9 2008 is selected, otherwise you might build in something strange, and we don't want that. We want to use the default native compilers. Hit Finish. Now this is going to error out the first time. We're expecting that. It's going to give us a few errors. See, error in configuration progress. Project files may be invalid. Excuse me. We're not an invalid. Alright. So to fix most of these errors, we want to go to CMake. And yes, this is rather ugly. We want to look for the specific line that says CMake install prefix. Now we want to set that using this little button over here to CWE-prefix, the folder that we unzipped into the C drive not too long ago. Now that will tell it to look for our libraries and everything else in that folder. Now we hit Configure one more time and it errors out again. We're expecting that again. It can't find OpenAL. OpenAL installs in program files and it doesn't expect that. So we'll just have to tell it where it is. The first thing we want to set is the include directory. So go over there and hit this little button again. And we're going to go down to the OpenAL 1.1 SDK. Expand that. Click on include and hit OK. Now, OpenAL library. We want to, again, click on that. And this time it's going to ask us for a file, so we get the nice file select dialog. We want to go out into the program files directory, into OpenAL 1.1 SDK. We're into libs and Windows 32, and we want to click on the object file library that's listed right here. Hit open. Now, I'm going to hit configure again, and it's going to get a little bit farther this time. It's still going to error out, but this next check is going to be the last one. As you can see, it errored again, and there's a lot of red there. But really and truly, the only problem is PhysX. It doesn't know where to find it. So you see here at the bottom, we've got PhysX SDK path. You want to click on that and go to the little box here. Now you're in Program Files. You want to expand AGIA Technologies. Go into the AGIA PhysX SDK folder into 2.6.4. Click on the SDKs folder and hit OK. And make sure you use the SDKs folder inside AGIA PhysX SDK, otherwise bad things will happen. Now it says it can't find all these things, but CMake is very smart, and once you give it that path, it will find the other things automatically. So let's hit configure one more time. As you can see, nothing is red, nothing at all. So Now we can safely generate our Visual Studio files. And what this does is it makes some files that Visual Studio can understand and we can use to compile CWE. So you can close CMake now that we've made our files. We're going to go back into the C drive, into Plasma. Let's go into our build folder. And we've got a nice little file here called Plasma. It's a Visual Studio solution for Visual Studio 2008. So now we're opening up Visual C++ Express Edition, which is what I'm going to be using to compile here, because I assume that most people aren't going to fork over a bunch of money, and not everyone's a student and they won't be able to get the full version for free. Alright, so now compiling is very simple. Click on the build button here, press build solution, and it pops up this little dialog down here that shows us the progress. Now if you've never compiled anything before, you just be aware that this is going to take a while. It's going to take long enough that I'm not going to let the video record through it. We'll resume when it's done compiling. And as you can see, it's just going and going and going. You might want to grab you a cup of coffee and a book or something. See you when it's done. Alright, we've finished compiling. As you can see, 95 projects have succeeded building. 0 have failed. If it says that any have failed, then you'll need to check out the error list and see what the problem is. Probably linker errors, I would imagine. If you come by the forum or IRC, we'll try to help you as best we can. And now that you've compiled, you can go back into that build folder, go into sources, and into Plasma, apps, PL client, and debug. Or if you used a different configuration, it'll be in that configurations folder. But now we've got a debug build of the client right here. It's PL client, it's 12 megs. Because the debug build is going to be bigger. And you've got the launcher here as well. You're ready to go. Setting up a client to run in an Uru install is beyond the scope of this tutorial. I'm not going to actually show you how to do it, but you just need to copy it over along with anything it complains about. It's honestly not that hard. You just want to grab a copy of the MuleScripts repo and you'd be ready to go. If you have any questions, please ask on the forum or stop by IRC.